Hello there. Welcome to part 5 of the Jeep. So I have a few things here. Rebuild kits were 20 bucks. New calipers were 40 bucks, or factory remanufactured ones. So I went ahead and did that. I got some new nuts and bolts for the shocks. This was missing, so I got one on eBay. And then I have a whole new assortment of fuses to just go ahead and troubleshoot and get rid of a bunch of issues. In the back, I have all my scrap metal from this project, as well as that brake disc and the shocks. I want to go ahead and get those installed. Then just some piddly things, bump stops, that kind of thing. And hopefully we can take this thing out for a drive for the first time. I think that'd be pretty cool. So stick with me and we'll get started. Alright. So I just fought with this forever. It turns out you want these little hook portions on the bottom so that push these back so that they don't get in the way of the mount. But anyway, so that they can sit on there and help locate everything for you, in theory. Alright, and then next up, after this, is the new brake line, which you just undo there, and then do up the little banjo clamp on the caliper. Then that's good. And then eventually bleeding, but I'm not going to do that portion just yet. I need to either get one of those little gravity feeding systems, or not gravity, but vacuum feeding systems, or see if my wife will come and hang out and pump the brake caliper or brake pedals a gazillion times. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and attach that, and then I think we'll move on to the front shock, and that's probably when I will bring you back into it. Alright, so I have this part of all that on there, and I have this part, and that'll fall right in there. And then just to figure out how to get this to extend, but I'm going to start at the top. Oh, hood's closed. The top is just barely on there. So let's go ahead and let this come down. To right about there. So I what the fuck? How does this even? There is no greater joy in this world for me than working on this godforsaken Jeep. The little attachment for that hard line just immediately rounded itself off as soon as I tried to mess with it. Okay, It's doing something at least. But anyway, that rounded itself off immediately. So we have the old brake cable back in place, but it'll be enough for now. Once again, in the words of David Freiberger, don't get it right, get it running. Ugh. There's so little resistance because these are brand new bolts, so I can't ratchet it, but I also can't reach this nut. Okay. Motherfucker. I'm gonna finish this and then we'll continue. I have the brakes, the front shocks in. I'm gonna pop this off. That one right here. Don't need to drain this nice new battery. I kept the old brake lines on both sides. This is in place. And then I went and tightened all of the front suspension and filled up the little joints everywhere for the steering. So, it's kind of late. It's nighttime out there, as you can see. So, I think I'm going to call it a night. Next steps will be fixing fuses and bleeding the brakes, and hopefully going for a drive. That's gonna be a big milestone. Full disclosure, the clutch does work. I had to move cars around to be able to get the Volkswagen into this spot so that I could do the DPF and EGR delete today, which is why I started this video kind of late. I didn't feel like filming that. So I know it'll move forward on its own, and I know it'll move backwards on its own, but I had to use the e-brake. But yeah, thanks for hanging out for this, and we'll see you tomorrow. Hello again. Today I bought a brake bleeding kit from AutoZone. We'll see if it does anything. I'd like to try and get fluid to all four corners, make sure there's no clogged brake lines or anything, and see if we can make this thing stop. Because once it can stop, and once you get the rear shocks on, it should be semi-drivable, which would be pretty awesome on this rainy day to drive it for the first time, give it a in-motion car wash, let's say. So, yeah, let's get started. Alright, just like every AutoZone contraption, this immediately broke. The little thing that threads onto the pumping portion came off. So now I need to detour and fix that, and then I can continue. Alright, so I tried to fix that, and that blew up in my face because the little nut, like retaining nut for that thing, fell off, which is fine, so I thought, oh, I'll just replace it. But it's the smallest retaining nut that I've ever seen in my entire life, and I didn't have a wrench that would work, but I had a socket, so I drilled a hole in the back of it, and then drilled a bigger hole so that the socket would fit. And then as soon as that As soon as this drill bit went through, it got caught and spun the whole thing and just shot my coffee everywhere. Trying really hard to be positive today and think things like, oh, I'll make it better. I'll be able to drive this. But then every fucking time I try to do something on this thing, something goes wrong and something tries to bite me. So now, I'm gonna use my old friend Mr. Crowbar to hold this brake pedal down. And I'm just gonna do it the old-fashioned way that takes a million years. But oh well. So, see you in a minute. Alright, the brakes are all bled, and I have the shocks in. You can see the rear. I still don't have any sway bars hooked up, but this will be enough to try it out. The steering is all tightened up, and it's on the ground. Everything's good to go. I think it's time to try to go drive it and see what happens. That brake pedal feels good. First, let's try the brake. They work. Brakes feel good. Up third. There's so much dust. Oh. Alright, today is a new day with some clear plans. I want to be able to drive this thing to an exhaust shop. So what that's going to require is getting the front and rear sway bars on, trying to figure out the indicators. I think it's something with the interior fuse box, and getting it a little bit more aligned and getting all the steering and stuff tightened down a little better. It was extremely eyeballed the other day. So if I'm going to be taking this on any real road or anything, I want to try and give it the best shot it has. So I guess we'll start with the rear sway bar, because that's pretty much it for the rear, and then move on to the front, get everything buttoned up, do the fuse, and get out of here. Alright, I think you can probably see in here the sway bars are mounted. The rear one is, and I didn't film it, but I went ahead and put the front one on too. it is. I kind of eyeball aligned it as best as I could. We'll probably still get some death wobble just for fun. So I think I'm going to get some gas in it and try to figure out what's going on electric wise. With the headlights on, the headlights themselves don't come on, but the fog lamps do, and then the blinkers don't come on for some reason. I'm unsure about brake lights, so I need to figure all that out. But now that the sway bars are on, I'm going to try to drive it and try to get it to quiet down with an exhaust, and then we will go from there. But it's getting really close. We are driving about. I've gotten pretty much all the lights to work. The only ones that aren't working are the headlights. It has an exhaust now, which is better, still not amazing, but it's quieter. However, you can hear that big groaning noise. I think I roasted the rear diff, which is not ideal, but such is life. I've actually driven this a bunch today. I put gas in it, I drove it to like downtown Oklahoma City, all over, and it's doing shockingly good. I'm really happy with it. You know, it idles smoothly, it doesn't try to die on you at lights or anything. Yeah, it's going well. So, next up is getting the rear windshield in, which I'm gonna have my wife help me with. Hopefully tonight, after burgers. Dude. Sorry, this Chrysler 300 just totally came into my lane. What the fuck? Anyway, yeah, so hopefully we'll get the rear windshield in. The blower works. The AC does not, so let's figure that out. But the situation report is that the situation is good. Very happy. I need another mirror somewhere. The only one I have is on the driver door, and that's insufficient. So I'm gonna go to AutoZone, pick up a couple of supplies, probably go to dinner, and then you'll rejoin me at some point. So thanks for hanging out. So the rear glass is in. I replaced the struts for the hatch, so it actually stays open on its own now. I started taking the headliner down, and I'll put the little time lapse in at some point. Let's see, other things. The radio shorted out and cooked itself pretty good while I was driving, so I had to like rip the stereo out in a parking lot, which thankfully it wasn't attached very well to begin with. But the little the little oh shit handles and the rear seat belts require some star bolts or whatever T something sockets. So I'm gonna run to my shop to pick those up, and then hopefully I'll be able to get this stupid headliner down, A, so that I can redo it, and B, so that it stops like raining asbestos on me or whatever this is. Well, I got the headliner down, and when I went to get rid of the old glue, the whole thing crumbled apart. So for now, I do not have a headliner. Despite that little setback though, I've put a few hundred miles in the Jeep now, and it starts, drives, turns, and stops really well. All in so far, I'm a little under $5,000 into this Jeep, and it is really growing on me. The biggest issue to contend with right now is the howling rear axle, but I found a Dana 44 out of a Comanche, so that might be the next step in and video. We'll see. Either way, I am not replacing that axle with another Dana 35. That said, the XJ Revival series is going to end with this video. So far as I'm concerned, the XJ has been revived. Together, we've taken this abandoned Jeep, sat outside for 20 years, and brought it back to running and driving condition. It's back. I'll continue making videos on it as things come up and improvements are made, but I want to take a moment to thank those of you who have watched this revival. My channel is microscopic at this point, and I'm glad you found it and hopefully enjoy it. That said, I will see you soon. Thanks again.